Welcome back. You are listening to the home of forbidden romances. Prepare yourself, because tonight's story will leave you breathless. The gun was cold against the base of his skull, but not nearly as freezing as the realization that I had hesitated. In my line of work, a split-second delay isn't just a mistake, it's a gravestone. I had the shot. I had the angle. The rain was lashing against the penthouse glass, masking the sound of my breathing, and the target, the most dangerous man in the city, was standing with his back to me, vulnerable for the first time in 6 months. But my finger froze on the trigger, paralyzed not by fear, but by the memory of how his hands had felt binding my wounds only hours before. "Do it, run," he whispered, not turning around, his voice a low, melodic baritone that vibrated through the silent room. He wasn't looking at me, but he saw everything. He always did. Pull the trigger and become the hero they want you to be. Or lower it and become mine. 6 months earlier, the air in the interview room had smelled of ozone and suppressed violence. I stood in the center of the expansive dojo located on the 45th floor of the Vesper Tower. The floor was polished obsidian, reflecting the skyline of Neo-Viridia, a city that bled neon and corruption in equal measure. My name is Ren Jinhai. To the public, I was a dishonorably discharged Special Forces operative looking for mercenary work. To the clandestine agency that owned my soul, I was Asset 7, the mole sent to burrow into the heart of the underworld. My target, Cassius Thorne. He sat on a raised dais, legs crossed, wearing a suit that cost more than my childhood home. He was beautiful in the way a natural disaster is beautiful, terrifying, awe-inspiring, and destructive. His hair was the color of spun silver, falling over eyes that were a jarring, unnatural violet. He looked bored. "You killed 3 of my men in the lobby," Cassius noted, swirling a glass of amber liquid. He didn't sound angry. He sounded intrigued. "They wouldn't let me in for the interview," I replied, my voice flat. I improvised. Cassius stood up. The movement was fluid, like water flowing over stone. He descended the stairs, the tap of his dress shoes echoing in the cavernous room. He stopped inches from me. I was tall, broad-shouldered, built for war. He was leaner, elegant, but the aura radiating off him was heavy enough to crush a lesser man. "My head of security thinks you're a plant," Cassius said softly, his gaze dissecting me. "He says your background is too clean in its dirtiness. The dishonorable discharge, the bar fights, the debts. It reads like a script." My heart hammered against my ribs, but my pulse remained steady. "Paranoia keeps you alive, Mr. Thorne, but it doesn't find you good help." "True." He circled me. "I need a dog that bites, Mr. Jinhai, but I need to know whose hand holds the leash." Suddenly, he struck. It wasn't a clumsy haymaker. It was a precise, lethal strike aimed at my throat. My body moved on instinct, years of conditioning overriding my cover. I blocked, twisted, and countered, aiming a kick at his ribs. He caught my leg, his grip like iron, and swept my other foot out from under me. We hit the floor, the impact knocking the wind out of me. In a blink, I had him in a grapple, but he had a hidden ceramic blade pressed against my femoral artery. We froze. He was beneath me, pinned, yet he held my life in his hand. His chest heaved slightly against mine, the heat radiating between us instantaneous and scorching. "You held back," Cassius murmured, a smirk playing on his lips. "You could have broken my wrist." "You're the client," I gritted out. "Bad for business to break the client." He laughed, a dark, rich sound. He retracted the blade and shoved me off, standing up and dusting off his pristine suit. "You're hired. Don't disappoint me, Ren. I have a very low tolerance for betrayal." The first month was a masterclass in psychological torture. Cassius Thorne was not just a mobster. He was the king of Viridia. He controlled the ports, the politicians, and the police. My job was to shadow him, to be the wall between him and the 1,000 bullets aimed at his heart. I stood by the door while he negotiated arms deals disguised as charity galas. I drove him through the rain-slicked streets while he ordered hits over encrypted lines. And every night, I reported back to Director Vance. "We need actionable intel, run," Vance barked through the secure earpiece one rainy Tuesday. I was standing on the balcony of Cassius's penthouse, smoking a cigarette I didn't want. "He's planning something big. The Eclipse shipment. Find out where and when." He doesn't trust me, I whispered back, watching Cassius through the glass doors. He was playing the piano, a haunting melody that seemed to mourn the world. He keeps the details in his head. Then get into his head. Seduce him if you have to. Just get the job done. I cut the connection, feeling a wave of nausea. Seduction wasn't in the mission parameters, but the line between hunter and prey was blurring. Cassius was an enigma. He was ruthless, ordering the execution of a traitor without blinking, yet I had watched him stop a motorcade to rescue a stray dog, paying a vet thousands to save it. He read philosophy in the original Greek. He had nightmares that made him scream in the dead of night. One evening, after a particularly grueling negotiation with the triads, we were in the back of the armored limousine. The city lights streaked by in blurs of red and gold. You disapprove, Cassius said, breaking the silence. He was nursing a headache, his eyes closed. It's not my place to approve or disapprove, sir. Drop the act, run. It's just us. He opened his eyes, the violet irises piercing. You think I'm a monster. I think you profit from suffering. I organize it, he corrected sharply. Nature is chaos. Viridia is a cesspool. Without me, the gangs would turn the streets into a war zone. I bring order. It's a bloody, cruel order, but it is order nonetheless. And the cost? My soul, he said simply. He leaned forward, encroaching on my personal space. The scent of sandalwood and expensive tobacco filled my senses. But tell me, Run, why do you stay? You could kill me. You've had a dozen chances. You're faster than me. Stronger. Why am I still breathing? It was the question I asked myself every day. Because I'm paid to protect you. Liar, he whispered, his hand brushing my knee. The touch burned through the fabric of my tactical trousers. You stay because you want to see if I can be saved. Or maybe, because you want to be corrupted. The turning point came in the third month. The enemies to lovers trope is often romanticized, but in reality, it is forged in blood. We were ambushed leaving the opera house. It was a coordinated hit by a rival syndicate looking to usurp the throne. An RPG hit the lead car. Our driver was dead instantly. Get down, I roared, throwing myself over Cassius as the windows shattered under a hail of automatic fire. I dragged him out of the wreckage, shielding his body with mine. We moved through the alleyways, rain mixing with the blood running down my face. I took a bullet to the shoulder, a searing, hot poker of pain, but adrenaline kept me moving. I got us to a safe house, a derelict apartment in the lower district. I kicked the door open and shoved him inside, clearing the room with my sidearm before collapsing against the wall. The world was spinning. Run. Cassius's voice was frantic, a tone I had never heard before. He was on his knees beside me, his hands, usually so steady, so cold, shaking as he ripped open my shirt. It went through. I gasped, the pain blinding. Missed the artery. I'm fine. You are not fine, you idiot. He ran to the bathroom, returning with a first aid kit. For the next hour, the king of Viridia, a man who had servants for everything, cleaned my wound. He stitched the flesh with surprising tenderness, his brow furrowed in concentration. I watched him, hazy from blood loss. He looked younger like this, stripped of his armor, his hands stained with my blood. Why? He asked quietly, tying the bandage. You could have let them take me. You would have been free. My job, I mumbled. Stop saying that. He slammed his hand against the floorboards. Why did you take the bullet? I reached out, my hand trembling, and grabbed his wrist. The contact was electric. Because I couldn't watch you die. Cassius froze. He looked at my hand, then up to my eyes. The air in the room shifted, becoming heavy, charged with a tension that had been building for months. He leaned in, his gaze dropping to my lips. You are a fool, Renjin Hai, he breathed. He kissed me. It wasn't gentle. It was desperate, a collision of two worlds that should never have touched. It tasted of copper and rain. I kissed him back, forgetting the mission, forgetting Director Vance, forgetting that I was supposed to destroy this man. In that moment, amidst the grime of a safe house, I didn't want to arrest him. I wanted to burn with him. The morning after, the reality crashed back down. I received a text from Vance. Asterisk, the Eclipse shipment is tonight. Dock 4. 0200 hours. The strike team is ready. Confirm Cassius will be there. Asterisk. I stared at the screen. This was it. The end of the line. If I gave the confirmation, Cassius would be arrested or killed. If I didn't, my cover was blown, and I would be branded a traitor to the state. Cassius was standing by the window, watching the sunrise. "We have to go," he said, not turning around. "The shipment comes in tonight." "Cassius," I started, the name feeling foreign on my tongue without the honorific. "I know, Run." I stopped. "You know what?" He turned, and the look in his eyes broke me. It wasn't anger. It was resignation. "I know who you are. I've known since the second week." My blood ran cold. "How?" "Because you are too good to be a mercenary. You have a conscience. It makes you sloppy." He walked over to the table and poured 2 cups of coffee. "I hired you because I knew the agency would send someone. Better the devil I can see than the one I can't. I thought I could use you, feed you false intel, maybe turn you." "And?" I asked, my hand hovering near my gun. "And?" He looked at me, a flicker of vulnerability crossing his face. I didn't account for the variable of falling in love with the spy. The silence stretched, thick and suffocating. "Why tell me now?" I asked. "Because tonight is the end," Cassius said. "My second in command, Lucien, is the one who betrayed me. He's the one who tipped off your agency. He plans to kill me at the docks tonight and take over the syndicate, with your agency's blessing. Vance doesn't want to arrest me, Ren. He wants me dead so he can install a puppet." The realization hit me like a physical blow. Vance had played me. "So," Cassius continued, his voice steadying, "you have a choice. You can arrest me now, or you can help me survive the night." We arrived at Dock 4 under the cover of darkness. The rain had returned, a torrential downpour that obscured vision. Containers were stacked high like steel monoliths. "He's here," I said, checking the thermal scope. Lucien was waiting in the center of the clearing, surrounded by armed men. But they weren't just syndicate thugs, there were agency operatives there too. Vance was standing next to Lucien, smiling. "It's a setup," I whispered. "It always is," Cassius replied. He checked his magazine. "Ready?" "No." "Good. Fear keeps you sharp." We moved. It was a chaotic blur of gunfire and shouting. We fought back to back, a seamless unit. I took out the agency snipers while Cassius moved with terrifying grace, his dual pistols flashing in the dark. We cut a path toward Vance and Lucien. But we were outnumbered. They cornered us against the edge of the pier, the dark water churning below. Vance stepped forward, flanked by 4 operatives. "Asset 7, he called out, his voice dripping with disappointment. "Step away from the target. You're relieved of duty." I looked at Vance, then at Cassius. Cassius was bleeding from a graze on his cheek, his chest heaving. He didn't look at me. He was waiting for the bullet. I raised my gun. I pointed it at Cassius. Cassius closed his eyes. "Do it, Ron." The memory of the safe house, the interview, the quiet moments in the car, they all flashed before me. I looked at Vance, seeing the smug corruption in his smile. I looked at Cassius, the monster who had shown me more humanity than my own superiors. "I'm sorry, sir," I said to Vance. I spun, firing 3 rounds. Not at Cassius. Vance screamed as the bullets tore into his leg and shoulder, dropping him. In the confusion, Cassius threw a flashbang he had concealed. "Jump!" Cassius yelled. We dove off the pier into the freezing black water just as the dock exploded in gunfire. We washed up miles downriver, shivering and exhausted. The rain had stopped, leaving a cold, clear sky. We sat on the riverbank, the adrenaline fading into a dull ache. I had thrown away my career, my life, my identity. I was a fugitive now. Cassius looked at me, water dripping from his silver hair. He reached out and touched my face, his thumb tracing my jawline. "You missed," he said softly. "I never miss," I replied. "You gave up everything," he whispered, searching my eyes. "Why?" I leaned into his touch, the warmth of his skin the only anchor in a world that had gone adrift. "Because the safest place for a knife is in your own hand. And I'm not letting anyone else hold you." He smiled, a genuine, rare smile that reached his violet eyes. "Then I suppose I'm stuck with you. My bodyguard. My betrayer. My love. Your partner," I corrected. He pulled me in, his lips meeting mine in a promise of chaos and devotion. We were both damned, both hunted, but as the sun began to crest over the skyline of Viridia, I knew one thing for certain. The investigation was over. The reign was just beginning. And that is how the spy fell for the king. If you enjoyed seeing Rin choose love over duty, Destroy that like button. And tell me in the comments, would you burn down your entire life for the person you were supposed to destroy? I'll be reading your answers. Subscribe for the next chapter. Until then,